just to introduce myself a little bit, yes, my name is Ashley C. Ford. I added the C a long, long time ago when I looked up Ashley Ford on Google and found a writer whose things were not great. And I didn't want people to confuse me, the novice terrible writer, with a person who was a long-term terrible writer. I believed that I could get better. And I just wanted you guys to give me a fighting chance. I am 31 years old. I am getting married in September. Thank you. Not an accomplishment though. I really appreciate that. Marriage is a thing you do. It's not something you like accomplish. Wait like 10 years and then be like, good job being married for 10 years. But just getting married, I could decide to do that with somebody in this room right now and go do that just downtown like that. That's not really an accomplishment. I love yacht rock. Yeah, a lot of you are looking real questionable about that. Like before it was like, she's getting married, yay! And then I'm like, I like yacht rock, and you guys are like, nah. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. But those are just some things about me. What do? I write. I tell stories. I talk. It's my favorite thing to do. I always, when something like this happens and people are like, will you come give a talk? And I'm like, absolutely. Because I'm not great at giving a speech, but I am fantastic at talking to people. This is my favorite thing to do, is look out at a bunch of people and feel like I'm talking to them all at once. That's why I'm on the internet. Why else would you be on the internet if you didn't feel like the possibility was, I only have to say things once and a bunch of people will hear it? Fantastic. So they asked me to come here today and talk to you guys about courage, which, as a word person, initially sent me into a bit of a tailspin. Courage means so many different things to so many different people. And the word changes along the course of your life, right? I am, just to add to the list of things you guys are gonna know about me when you leave here, a superhero super fan. I love comic books. I love superhero. I love Marvel. I know some people are more DC. That's okay. We pray for you too. And whatever, all people, we're all in this together. But I love Marvel, and I grew up loving superheroes. And I think the reason why I love superheroes as a kid was this idea I had in my head that one day, if something magical happened to me, I would be able to be in control of my environment completely. Like a lot of kids, I grew up in what some people might consider a hostile environment. My mom would disagree. She would disagree. She would say, I did everything, I worked hard for you. And I would say, you are absolutely right. And I would also say, Mom, you were always mad. You were always mad, always angry. And your children, of which I'm the oldest of 4, thank you very much. So I made it. But my mother's children were the recipients of her anger quite often, no matter how that anger played out. And I love my mom. I think in a lot of ways, she was a fantastic mother. But the truth is that my mom was a fantastic mother. She took care of her children all by herself, 4 kids by herself in Indiana, never making more than $36,000 a year. Never made more than $36,000 a year when I lived in my mom's house. And she got us all, over into the other side. We're alive. We're all working. We're good kids. We're good people. She accomplished what she meant to accomplish. But the truth is that my mom was also a very angry, angry woman. And that anger rained down on her kids almost daily. And that sucked too. That's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about when I talk about courage. Because courage for me, it was really easy to see it as physical. It was really easy to see somebody run into a dangerous situation and think, now that's a man with courage. It was really easy to see somebody jump into a situation and save a life because they have the knowledge and the tools to be able to like fix a broken body. And it's like, man, she's got courage. Growing up as a kid, courage, bravery, all of those things were all about physicality. I still like to think of myself as very physically strong, which I'm not gonna lie, kind of true. It is kind of true. Like, I'm a physically strong woman. I grew up in a family of women with very strong bodies. So I know that I could take any one of you in. I'm just kidding. That's not true. That's not true, probably not. I can't take any one of you. But for a long time, that was the way that I displayed my version of courage, was that I jumped into situations physically. I was always happy to jump into a situation physically because I believed in myself and I had this confidence in myself physically. And I didn't care if you were taller than me or bigger than me or whatever, because even if I lost a fight, I was gonna take a chunk of your hair or your skin, something like that. That was like my idea of courage in my head. It was all about that physical display. And then I went to college. And one of the first things I did when I went to college, because I knew something wasn't exactly right over here, was sign up for therapy. Because it was free and because I knew I needed it. I knew it. I knew that there were things I was missing. I knew that a lot of this physical, like, bravado that I had in a certain way was masking something else. I was smart enough to know that because I read a lot of books, and I knew that something wasn't right. But I was scared to talk about whatever might not be right because I was scared it might be unfixable. I can fix a lot of things with my body. I can break a bone, it can get fixed. I can actually get into a physical fight with somebody and probably within a week be like, yo, I'm sorry. And things will be okay. Or at least like where I grew up. That happened. I don't know about where you guys are from, but where I grew up, very common to get into a physical fight and next week be like, now you know I didn't mean. We was all worked up and things happen, Happen all the time. But I wanted to move past that. I wanted to move beyond that. I wanted to be somebody who had courage in a way that I didn't even really understand was courageous yet. That's what I wanted. So I went to therapy and we started talking. And for the most part, I was fine. I was cool talking about my childhood and talking about all of these other things. And then something happened and my therapist asked me to say something that I couldn't bring myself to say. She said, you need to say, even if you don't have to say it to me, even if it's just to yourself, Ashley, you need to say, I am angry about the way I was raised. And I was like, no, my mom's all right. Like, she's not a bad person. Like there were all these things. And she was like, well, yeah. But what is also true is that you are angry about the way you were raised. And it took me a really long time. This little bitty sentence, are you kidding me? I had gone to parties where a dude put his hand down my shirt and I turned around and punched him in the face and he was 6'4". And I didn't give a crap. I mean, you can rap about that, like, sure, fine. I mean, he deserved it. I'm not apologizing. But I had done things like that. I had put my body in the way of danger on purpose multiple times, over and over and over. And now this nice lady was sitting across from me just asking me to say that I was angry about the way I was raised and I couldn't do it. It was a threshold I couldn't get over. And I kept wondering, why is that? Why do I not want to say it? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking it, and I know I can think it, but why can't I say it? And that's when I understood something about courage that I had never, ever, ever understood before. That courage is about doing what's hard. What's actually hard. getting mad and getting angry and physically pumping up and, making sure these people know that I'm not the one and you're not gonna, whatever, that was super easy. I'd been raised around that. I'd seen that constantly. That had been modeled for me. That was a path that I could always see the end of. At the end of that path, I was either going to be physically hurt, or I was going to have physically hurt someone else, or it was going to be a little bit of both. That's pretty much the way that was going to play out. I had no idea how it would play out to admit to myself that I was angry about the way I had been raised. And I was terrified of what might be on the other side of that statement and of that acceptance. And rightfully so, to be perfectly honest, because the minute that I admitted it to myself, I had a whole lot of other stuff to deal with. What did it mean that I was angry about the way I had been raised? Did that mean I wasn't grateful to my mother, to my family? Did that mean I felt I had been damaged in some irreparable way? Did it mean I was weak? Did it mean I didn't love people enough, that I didn't forgive people enough? What did it mean? And my therapist said to me very simply, well, really all it means is that now you're ready to be honest with yourself. And that terrified me even more because I didn't know if I was ready to be honest with myself. What does it mean even to be ready to be honest with yourself? I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss during this, but I'm just gonna say this. What it essentially took was sort of getting sick of my own bullshit. All of these stories I've been telling myself about my physical strength and the importance of it, all of these stories I had been telling myself about what I didn't get to be angry about or sad about, I was sick of it. It got really boring all of a sudden. As soon as I started to admit to myself the things that were true about me, to me, I couldn't handle all of a sudden the lies. It was untenable. In my head, these things I had been telling myself about how I wasn't good enough, these things I had been telling myself about not being able to be loved a certain way, the things I had been telling myself about not wanting to end up in a situation where I had to be responsible for anybody else. Because that was essentially what I was doing, ultimately. Very happy to be responsible for myself. Very, very happy to stand up and be somebody else's hero in a moment. Absolutely very happy to do that. But the consistent responsibility, the view I had had of that was my mother. The consistent responsibility of her children, the consistent responsibility of maintaining an image of, control. My mom wanted to control everything around her and how people saw her. She was so terrified that people would look at her life and pity her or think her weak, that she presented strong all the time. But when you're a kid, you don't see it as strong. You just know that your mom doesn't really hold you in her lap anymore. Your mom doesn't really hug you anymore. Your mom is way more likely to tell you about how you are making her life hard than the fact that she's proud of you. She's way more likely to call you a name than to say, I love you. And that was modeled for me. And even though it hurt, and even though I hated it, I took it with me through all those years thinking I was being the exact opposite of my mom. And I know, I'm looking at some of y'all right now, you're like, okay, all right. I know what you're talking about. You live your whole life thinking, I'm going in the exact opposite direction of the flaws of my parents. And then you're like, I don't know, 31. And you're looking at these frustrating things about yourself that you're like, why can't I change this? Why can't I be better at this? Why am I frustrating people with this part of myself? And then you're like, oh my God. Oh my God, it's her. Holy shit. You get this voice in your head, you're like, that's not even me. That's my mom, that's my dad, that's my grandma, my aunt, my sister, like whoever. It's like, that's somebody else, it's not me, but it is you. It is you. And I know you know some people who have been the same way for 30 years as far as their flaws. And it doesn't really get any better, probably getting a little worse. And you look at those people, and maybe they're that person. Maybe it's the mom, maybe it's the dad, maybe it's just a parent, whoever. And you're thinking, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to do that. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. You have to get sick of your own bullshit. You have to get sick of your own bullshit. You have to say, that hurt, that sucked, that was messed up, I'm mad about it. And then you can move into a next phase, which really sucks. And that phase is, what am I going to do about it? That's the phase that takes courage, real courage, the kind of courage that you are actively avoiding right now in some part of your life. For me, it's all emotional, okay? Like I said before, physically, look, if somebody walked in here right now and was like, oh, I'm gonna, like, it would be my first instinct to like run toward the person and do, like, and I know that because I've been in scary situations where that has been my reaction. It's like, you just, like, I don't know what I think I'm gonna do, guys. It actually might be a real emergency and I'm doing something terrible and that's not what I should have done, but I'm telling you, that would be my first reaction. Physically, I know that I'll do it. I know I'll show up. Emotionally, there are going to be a couple of you after this who want to come up and tell me just that you enjoyed the talk. You know, hopefully, probably just Tina, but we'll see. Somebody's gonna wanna come up to me and say, I really enjoyed your talk. Great, that's awesome. I love that people do that because it makes me feel good and it makes me feel awesome. But there is a part of me that is going to think, oh no, when they're standing right in front of me, up close, are they going to see something in me? Are they going to see how scared I am? Because I am scared. I'm scared right now. This is terrifying. You know how many of you there are out there? I might be good at this, but I'm terrified. And I'm not terrified that I'll say the wrong word. I'm not terrified that I'll fall off the stage. Though, I'm a little close. Let me back up. I am mostly terrified that I'll do this right and you'll see me. I'm terrified of that. Courage, for me, is coming up here and telling you that I'm angry about the way I was raised, but I love my mother, and I think she's fantastic. And even though there are parts of me right now standing here that I'm like, I know that's mom. In my head, I know know where that came from. There's another part of me that knows I am only standing up here because she was my mom. And because, yeah, my mom might have said and done some weird, terrible things when I was a kid. She also did some really fun, awesome things. And maybe the most important thing is that my mom always told me, you have to go out into the world and be whoever you're gonna be. My mom was not the one who was like, you get to be a doctor or a lawyer. You better choose. That's the choice you get. My mom told me you're the only person who has to wake up in your skin every day. You're the only person who has to do that. So when you make decisions, when you make choices that will affect the rest of your life, make them for you. She's probably regretting that a whole lot now that I'm writing a memoir, but that's what she said. And getting to a place where I could write my story, where I could write about these fears, where I could write about this upset and this anger and know that she's gonna read it, knowing that the rest of my family is going to read it, that took some courage. That took some gumption I didn't know I had. That took some non-physical space, being willing to take up some non-physical space. I was terrified. I'm still terrified every day. And I stand up, and I do it, and I have the conversation. I'm not good at speeches, guys. I'm telling you, I'm really not. I feel like you don't believe me, and I'm trying to explain to you that I'm not. I could only get up here and do this if it felt like a conversation that I get to have with you. I want to say something real quick about a movie I just saw called A Wrinkle in Time by Ava DuVernay. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I think you should. The morning that I was going to see that movie, I had a really very interesting conversation with my sister and then with one of my best friends, Spencer. My friend Spencer is currently transitioning. And they are the most beautiful person I've ever met in my entire life, inside and out. Inside and out. The most beautiful person I've ever met. Currently transitioning. And they said to me, Ashley, and I wrote it down, guys, because I wanted to get it right. I didn't want to lie to y'all about what happened. They said to me, you know, I think the gap between expectation and reality is where pain lives. And that's what we're scared of admitting, is that we had an expectation and it bumped up against reality and it hurt. And they were talking about that in terms of transition, the expectation of what they would look like after a course of hormones, after, maybe getting surgery, after dressing a certain way, versus what they saw when they looked in the mirror. And learning to live with the pain of that gap. For me, it's childhood. Watched a lot of TV as a kid. So yeah, my expectations of childhood were high, okay? Everybody else was having fun on Nickelodeon. I wanted to have just as much fun as Doug Funny and the Rugrats. I did. But there were things that came into my life that were hard, and that's reality. And because I wasn't allowed to acknowledge that pain that existed in that gap, I learned to cover it up. I learned to hide it and shield it and keep it away from everything. So I go see this movie, A Wrinkle in Time, and there is this quote about wounds. And the quote is that wounds are how the light gets in. Now, I know some people are going to be like, that's a Leonard Cohen lyric. But it is pre-Leonard Cohen. I just want to put that out there. And it's in the movie. And I started crying in the movie theater when I heard this. And I knew that I started crying because I knew it was true. And that's what the truth does to me now. The truth is beautiful. And the truth requires courage. It requires it. You have to be courageous to admit the truth and to find the truth and to hear the truth and to accept the truth. It all requires courage beyond your body, right here and right here. That's where you have to be courageous now. I heard this and I knew it was true because that's how all of the joy and light that I get to emanate now In some cases, every once in a while somebody takes a really good picture of me. And in that picture, it's probably Paul. Where's Paul? A really fantastic picture. I'm really excited about those pictures. But what I noticed is that the look on my face in photos changed. The look on my face in photos changed over the years. I look brighter. And my skincare routine is not that awesome. It's just, I look brighter, I am lighter, I am happier. I'm having a better time in life. And it's because I'm able to tell myself now when I feel negative things, hard things, whatever, that sucks, that's true. What are you gonna do about it? Sometimes what I'm gonna do about it is just sit around and heal and learn how to feel better. Sometimes what I'm gonna do about it is raise a bunch of money to do something really cool and amazing. Sometimes I'm gonna hit the streets. Sometimes I'm gonna be in a shelter. Sometimes I'm gonna do all sorts of things. The point is not that you feel it. People feel fear and they think that that is the thing. Fear is not the thing. Fear is just what's in front of you. Courage is the thing you choose. Choose it. Choose to expose your wounds in safe spaces. Choose to let the light in. Choose to jump over the obstacle, the extreme obstacle of fear. If you can, but you can. Okay? Thank you so much for talking with me today. Thank you.